This pizza is not just gluten-free, it's damn tasty. All you need are 5 to 6 ingredients. Flour. You can go for soy, rice, almond, or buckwheat flour. But to be honest, it's easiest to buy a gluten-free flour mix. In most cases, these mixes are made from several gluten-free flours and extra ingredients like psyllium to mimic the stretchy properties of a dough with gluten. For this recipe, I'm using a flour mix from Caputo. Water. How fast you want your dough ready determines your water temperature. For a long refrigerated fermentation, you want to use cold water. If you're in a hurry and you want to eat your pizza between 4 and 8 hours, then use warm water to activate the yeast. Yeast. I recommend using instant dry yeast. It's easy to get by, it's easy to use, and it's very potent. Salt. In gluten-free pizza goes quite a bit of salt. Most important reason, taste. But also, it helps to fight off bad bacteria during the long fermentation process. Oil. Oil will lubricate the dough, helping to retain gases produced by the yeast, resulting in a better rise, a better oven spring, and a delicious flavor. So choose your oil wisely. I like to go for a beautiful extra virgin olio oliva.
Oh my God.
Psyllium. If you're using a gluten-free pizza mix, like the one we're using today, you don't need to add psyllium. However, if you decide for a gluten-free flour of your choice or make a mix, then using psyllium is wise. This natural fiber helps bind and thicken the dough, making it easier to shape and helps retaining gases produced by the yeast. The dough recipe. I can give you a recipe to make a certain amount of pizzas. Instead, I would like to give you the tools so you can make your own custom recipe. Click on the link below to go to the Pizzacalculator. Choose the number of pizzas you want to make, their size, and depending on your choice of flour, add or take away the psyllium from your recipe. Press calculate. Boom, boom, boom! Your own gluten-free pizza recipe. Step 1. Mixing the ingredients. Weigh down your flour and place it in the first bowl. Then weigh down your water and place it in the second bowl. And remember, cold water for a long fermentation and warm water for a quick rise. Weigh your salt and now add it into the water. Weigh your yeast and drop it into the bowl. But wait, in my other videos, I told you not to mix salt and yeast because salt can stop the yeast from activating. That's kind of true for some types of yeast, but the last few years of pizza baking have told me that instant dry yeast is so potent that a little bit of salt is not gonna do anything to its potency. So yes, you can throw it in. Oh, wait, something else I've learned in the last few years is that nobody owns a micro scale. Problem is, those regular scales don't pick up those itsy bitsy tiny amounts of yeast you need for your dough recipe. Don't panic, I'm gonna help you out. So I created a tool for your phone. It doesn't weigh the yeast, it measures it. Simply fill in the amount you need, place your phone on a flat surface and start pouring yeast on the center dot. Continue pouring until the yeast reaches the outer rim of the circle. And there you go. To find this yeast tool, go to the link below. And yes, you may finally add the yeast into the water. Give it a good mix. Now gradually start incorporating the flour, mixing it with a whisk or a fork. Keep adding more flour until you can no longer mix. This technique will prevent dry lumps from forming in your dough. Kneading. Now add the remaining flour and knead for a few minutes or until there's no dry flour left. Then add the oil and continue kneading until all of it is absorbed by the dough. Dough handling. Divide the dough into portions of 300 grams each and shape them into disc-like forms. This will help the dough take on a shape closer to the final pizza shape, making shaping later on much easier. Hoppa. Now gently coat the dough disc with oil to prevent them from drying. Now if these were regular dough balls, you would place them all together in one of these dough crates. With our dough, that's not ideal, because when the dough starts to rise, it will expand. And because there's no gluten holding the dough together, it will start to rip. To minimize this from happening, place them in round, oiled containers. Or loosely wrap them in foil, like so. So if you're now in a hurry, let your dough sit at room temperature for 4 to 8 hours. For a lighter, easier to digest and a more flavorful dough, refrigerate them for 8 to 48 hours between 4 and 7 degrees Celsius. Once you take the dough out of the fridge, let it rest so the dough can come to room temperature. This will allow the yeast to warm up, giving it its final rise. Also making the dough much easier to work with in the next step, shaping the pizza. This is a traditional pizza with gluten, very stretchy. This is the dough we're working with today. Not stretchy at all. I'm showing you this so that you know we have to be very careful with the following steps. Lightly flour your work surface. Start gently pressing the center of the dough ball and work your way out, creating the crust. Use one hand to push the dough down and out, while the other hand is there to create the crust and to prevent it from tearing. Please rotate or flip the dough a few times during the process. This will ensure it won't get stuck to the table. Baking. Gluten-free pizza tends to stay very pale during the bake. So for some extra crunch, color and flavor, lightly brush the crust of the pizza with some olive oil. Top your pizza with the ingredients you love. Bake at 450 degrees Celsius for 1 to 2 minutes. Or in your home oven for 6 to 8 minutes at max heat. Honest review, I was very skeptical about this pizza, but I gotta say it's damn good. Only downside, it's a bit more chewy, but next to that, it's awesome. I can recommend it to anybody. And the dough has so much flavor, it's insane. Enjoy.